Hello gardening friends and welcome to All About Gardening. My name is Madison and today I'm going to show you just how easy it is to propagate the wonderful and ever popular ZZ plants. They're also known as Zanzibar gems after their native habitats, and they are most famous for being almost impossible to kill. They can handle low light, underwatering. As long as they're not overwatered or placed in direct sun for too long, you should have no problem caring for these wonderful plants. I already have a couple here, some growing better than others, but I do want to propagate a few more, and today I'm going to show you 3 ways that you can do that. The first method of propagation we're going to look at today is one of the most common, and that is propagating from cuttings. So to get started, I'm going to grab a few things. The first is either a sharp pair of pruning shears or a sharp craft knife, depending on what you have available. Then you'll need to get a container to root the cuttings. I've just got a couple of recycled plastic pots over here, and then a propagating mix. This propagating mix is the one I always use. It's a combination of equal parts coconut coir and perlite, and it's very well draining, especially for these plants that are quite prone to overwatering. So to start off, I'm just going to fill this container with some of this propagating mix to prepare for planting. Now, when you're taking cuttings from your ZZ plant, you may, like other house plants, want to cut just below a node, remove some of the leaves and then plant it. However, with the growth habit of these plants, it's best not to cut a stem from the middle because it's not going to grow back from where you cut it. It does look a bit messy if you cut it in the wrong place. It sort of starts rotting off. So what you want to do is cut from the base of the plant, remove the stem completely, and then propagate from there. Just to give you an idea of what I mean when I say it won't grow back, I'll bring in this one that I bought, and you can see a cutting was taken from the plant over here, and it hasn't grown back. This is what it turns into. It doesn't look great. It doesn't make the plant look nice, especially if it's cut about halfway up. It just makes the plant look a bit untidy. So I'm going to take a cutting from this big plant over here, and I'm going to choose one of the outliers so that the plant doesn't look lopsided. This one is growing quite far out. The growth looks strong. The stem is healthy. So just to balance the plant out a bit, I'm going to cut this one off right at the base. So I like using a craft knife, but you can also use your shears. And you're just going to take the stem and cut as close to the soil line as you can. Okay, now we have a whole cutting removed. You can cut this into separate sections, but just to make it look a bit better while it's developing roots and growing, I'm going to leave it as is. Now, all you need to do, because this cutting has no leaves at the bottom half, I don't really need to remove them. If they are below the soil, they'll only rot when you water the plant, but we have quite a large piece of stem here that has no leaves, so I don't think I really need to remove any of these. I'm just going to make a hole in the center of the pot to bury the cutting inside. Move these around the sides and then press down to anchor the plants in place. I definitely could have used a bigger pot for this specific cutting. It is a bit small, but as this is only propagating mix, we're just waiting for the plant to develop roots so that it can be repotted. There's no nutrients in this soilless mix, and it needs to be transplanted into houseplant soil later on. So when that does happen, I will make sure I get a bigger pot just to balance out the growth a bit. That's all you really need to propagate from a single cutting. You can see where I've made the cut here. That should heal off, and as long as you keep care the same, there shouldn't be any issues with growth in the parent plant. While this container is here, I'm going to take the opportunity to show you the second method of propagation, which is propagating from single leaves. Very similar process to cuttings. It also involves rooting in soil, but you're just using a single leaf. It does take slightly longer than using stem cuttings to root, but if you have a smaller plant like one of these with only a few stems and you can't really afford to cut a whole stem off, single leaves are definitely an option. It can get slightly technical, so I'm going to bring this plant here and show you up close. For this, you will definitely need your craft knife to remove the leaves correctly. So some choose to just peel the leaf off, but I find it can be hit or miss because you have to include part of the stem with the single leaf in order for it to grow and develop roots. If you peel it off and you root it, sometimes if there's not part of the stem with it, the leaf will just rot and die off. So it's best to use a craft knife to give you the most chance at success. I'm going to choose this large leaf here. No signs of disease. It looks healthy. I'm going to grab my craft knife and slice into the stem to include some of that with my individual leaf cutting. So we've got a little piece at the bottom there. I haven't cut too far into the stem so that it's not damaged. It should heal relatively quickly if your plant is healthy. And I can take a few more of these cuttings to root all at once. I've made 4 leaf cuttings ready for planting, and this next part really couldn't be easier. You just make a teeny tiny dent in the soil, push the base of the leaf in until it stands upright, and then press around the soil to anchor it in place. You can keep going with these until you have all of your individual leaves planted. The reason you plant them this way is so that they don't lie across the soil when it's wet, which will only lead to rotting and will ultimately prevent root growth. So now that all of these leaves are planted and upright, I'm just going to water the soil from below so that I don't have to get any water on the leaves and disturb them where they're planted. And then I'm going to move this part to a spot with bright indirect sunlight and plenty of warmth to encourage new root growth. And that's the first 2 methods of propagation down. So I'm going to set this part aside and get ready for the third one, which is propagating by division. This is best if you have a larger plant that's overgrown. Maybe it's sort of pushing on the sides of its container. I am going to pick up this very small plant that has been planted in a small container. It's struggling. You can see it's even bending the plastic pot. So it definitely needs a new container, and that is the perfect time to divide. To divide your ZZ plant, you'll need a few tools. You can bring back in your craft knife from your leaf cuttings or a pair of pruning shears, an extra container for the divisions to be planted in. And then I'm going to grab this soil mix, which is a houseplant potting mix. It's a combination of 2 parts potting soil, 1 part coconut coir, and 1 part perlite, which drains well enough for these succulent-like plants. So to get started with dividing, I'm first going to remove the plant from its container to get a closer look at what's going on below the soil. I've brought the camera a bit closer so you can get a better idea of how this process works. I'm going to start by squeezing the sides of the container, and you can see here that the shape of it is very bent. And then I'm going to gently pull the plant out from its container. These overgrown roots clearly are looking for some more space to grow. So I'm going to remove all of this extra soil around here so that I can get a closer look at the rhizome. Already, we've got 1 part of this plant that's desperately looking to go out on its own. So I'm just going to pull this guy off here. And we've already got 1 division that almost divided itself. I'm going to keep removing the soil around here so we can get a closer look at what's going on. And this will tell us how many plants we can make from this 1 individual plant. Here again, we've got 1 division that pretty much separated itself. This was probably planted in the container as none of the roots are connected. So I'm guessing they were all put together, all of the cuttings in 1 pot. And then we've got this main big ZZ plant with another smaller one that we can separate off there. Now I could probably divide this one further by cutting it in half to leave 2 stems here and 2 stems here. However, because this growth over here is not that strong and this plant was already struggling, I think it would be best just to keep them all together until it's grown a bit more, and then divide again later on. So what we've got here is one main plant, one stem over there, another small one, and another small one. So 4 divisions that we can replant each into their own containers. With all our divisions separated, all there is left to do is replant them. I've got 3 containers here, the container that the plant originally came in, another one that's a similar size, and then a larger recycled pot that I'm going to use to replant the bigger piece just to give it a bit more space to grow. So I'm going to fill this with my potting mix over here. Fill each of the containers equally. Make sure you don't fill it up too much, because when you water, all the excess will just spill out. And there our containers are prepared. So I've got 3 containers and 4 divisions. That's because I'm going to take these 2 small individual ones to plant together. The one doesn't look very healthy, the other one's quite small, so I think it'll just fill out the pots a bit more if I plant them in the same container. So I'm going to make a hole in the soil, keep these 2 together, and then just dig them in next to each other, filling in around the space and making sure you don't plant them too deeply to prevent rotting. So there we've got the first division planted. Now the next one is slightly larger, it's got a couple more stems, but it's still pretty small, so I'm going to plant it in this container here, making enough space for the roots to grow, filling in the gaps. And there, it's planted. This one is going to be slightly trickier because it's a lot larger. So I'm going to dig around. I'm actually going to get rid of some of the soil here because there probably won't be enough space. Lower it into the pot, making sure the roots aren't too tangled and that the stems are at the same level. Then I'm just going to fill in around the gaps with more soil mix until the plant is secure. And it is as easy as that. So from 1 plant, we've now got 3 with potential for more in the future if these ones grow successfully. For more details on each of these propagating processes, you can head to allaboutgardening.com, where you'll also find information on how to care for these wonderful plants once they have been planted. You can also check out the other videos on our YouTube channel for more houseplant tips and tricks.